Hey everybody, Derek Christensen here. I'm the owner of Legion Law, a premier estate planning and probate law firm here in Dallas, Texas. Today I wanted to talk to you about debts owed by the estate after someone passes away. But before I dive into that, I wanted to let you know how to reach out to me. You can find me in my email, Derek, D-E-R-E-K, at legionlawpllc.com, or you can find me on my website, www.legionlawpllc.com. So with that, let's dive right in. Now, this is a very big concern for a lot of people because there's actually a genuine fear out there that if my dad passes away and he owes $20,000 to the government, does that mean I owe $20,000 to the government as soon as I'm receiving something from his estate? My father's estate, specifically, not the IRS. And the answer is no. And oftentimes, people don't understand how debts are resolved after somebody's passed away. They don't just disappear, but they also don't get resolved immediately. Here's how it works. So Texas has, by law, a very specific hierarchy of paying off debts. So literally, the laws state that funeral expenses are the very first one. Then, hold on, I got my notes here. Oh yeah, child allowances, family allowances, that's right. So if you pay off your funeral and you still have money left over, then you can give money to the family to pay for an allowance, is what it's called. But the family allowance really is a fact or case-by-case basis that simply determines how much money do you need to survive if they're minor children or there's a spouse who has to take care of kids. Then once that family allowance has been taken care of, if it needs to at all, then you have administrative expenses as well. So that includes accountants, attorneys, paying for probate, stuff like that. And then on top of that, or below that, is then now what's called classifications and different types of debts. And these debts, there's actually another set over in another part of the law that says, okay, these are the type of law or debts that are paid in this type of order. So as you can imagine, and I'm not going to go through all of them, there's like 8, 7, something like that. I don't know. There are a lot of different classifications, but these debts can include secured debt, which is where you have an asset that has a loan on that property or on that asset. And if you don't pay back that asset, or if you don't pay back the loan, then the company can take it back. So that's usually houses and mortgages. It can be a car debt as well. It could be anything that's secured. So secured creditors, they're usually treated much better at the top of the list. And then unsecured creditors, such as credit card companies, student debt, stuff like that, are also down more towards the bottom of the list. However, unpaid taxes, unpaid child support, unpaid money that you owe the government, especially Medicare as well, are going to be higher up on the list as well. So it really just depends on where that debt falls on the list, and then you have to get a list of all the creditors. So that's going to be the government and Joe Schmo down the street and the IRS and the mortgage company and all these people. You're going to have to get them all together, and you have to figure out who gets what under what priority. Now, ideally, the estate is liquid, which means that you have enough assets that if you sold everything, got a big pile of cash, you can pay off all the debt and then it's done, right? And then all that cash left over is split up according to the terms of the will. But if you are not liquid, if you're illiquid, or if you have a negative net worth, then that's the prioritization. You pay, funeral, then allowance, then attorneys, then everyone else. Attorneys got to get paid, right? So at the end of the day, that's kind of the priority of the list. However, there is no obligation to force that debt if it's unpaid upon the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries just won't receive anything. So let's go back to my dad and me. Let's say he passed away, then I'm not forced to take on any debt from him if he can't pay off all his debts. However, we have to sell everything to pay those debts in the first place. So the debts don't go away, but they're not transferred either. See what I mean? So that's good news. However, there are often times where people will jump the gun, if you will, and they will go out and take an asset that they should not have taken. In other words, if I'm taking care of my dad, I'm living with him, and I'm in-house taking care of him, and he passes away and I see his car and I'm like, hey, I helped him out a ton. I'm entitled to that car, right? I mean, the will says I get the car, so why don't I just take the car? I don't need to go through probate. If I do that and I take that asset and then it turns out there's more money owed than there is money in the estate, then those creditors can come after me and say, hey, you took that asset, you weren't supposed to. That is something that we need to take to sell and pay off the debts of the estate. So that's why it's very, very, very worrisome when people take assets before probate has been resolved, because otherwise they very easily could subject themselves to the debts of the estate. One last thing to note, if you are a spouse, if you are a minor child, or if you are an adult living with your parents and you're unmarried and you have an incapacity, then you are entitled to what's called exempt property, which means that you are entitled to a certain set of type of assets also listed in the laws of Texas. So this is going to include the house, cars up to a certain dollar amount. It's going to include a lot of random things like a family Bible, livestock, 2 firearms, all sorts of random things like that. And those exempt assets are assets that you can take and keep to yourself, and nobody can take it away from you, even if creditors aren't all entirely paid. So that's the nice part about Texas, is that there's the Homestead Act and the exempt property that protects, again, spouses, minor children, and adult incapacitated children living with their parents. But if you're not one of those, if you're just an adult child living your life like I am, then you can't claim the exempt property, and that exempt property is going to get sold to pay off debts. So either way, that's how all the debts work. General picture, of course, very specific hierarchy needs to get figured out, and creditors do not mess around when it comes to this kind of stuff. So you really do want to make sure you do it right the first time. So hire an attorney like myself. Feel free to email me, Derek, D-E-R-E-K, at legionlawplc.com, or you can go to my website to schedule a free consultation over the phone if you go to our Contact Us page, and you can put that directly on my calendar at www.legionlawplc.com. So with that, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.